The snow fell heavier that night, the kind of cold that didn't just touch the skin but reached straight into the bones. Cars passed one after another, their headlights cutting through the frost-filled air, but no one noticed the young woman sitting alone on the cracked concrete bench of the bus stop. Her thin red dress, soaked by melting snow, clung to her shivering body like a silent reminder of everything she had lost. Her hands trembled uncontrollably, her breath shaky, her eyes swollen from hours, no, days of tears. She looked like someone who had reached the end, someone who had stopped believing that tomorrow could ever be kinder. And then through the blur of her despair came the small sound of footsteps crunching on the snow. A tiny figure, a little girl no older than 4 or 5, walked toward her with arms open wide, her curly hair bouncing with each step. Behind her, a man stood frozen, unsure of what his daughter was doing. But the child didn't hesitate, didn't slow down. She looked at the broken young woman as if she saw something no one else could see. It was in that moment, while the cold world kept moving around them, that the girl whispered the words that would change everything. If you believe kindness can save someone's life, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Act of Kindness. Help these stories reach more hearts. The young woman's name was Elena. Just 23, but life had carved years of sorrow into her expression. Only a week earlier, she had been someone entirely different, a hopeful dreamer, a hardworking assistant at a cafe, a girl who believed that if you kept going, eventually life would reward you. She wasn't rich, not even close, but she had stability. She had a tiny shared apartment, a warm bed, and a future she dared to imagine. But everything fell apart when her job unexpectedly shut down, leaving her unemployed overnight. With no family to call, no savings to hold her over, and a landlord who didn't believe in mercy, she was forced out of her room before the week was over. Suddenly, she found herself sleeping in cold corners, eating whatever strangers discarded, and praying for the strength to survive each night. Tonight she had been sitting at the bus stop for hours, not waiting for a bus, but because the half-roof shielded her from the snow. She wrapped her arms around her knees not just for warmth but for comfort, as if holding herself tightly enough might stop her from falling apart entirely. Every passing face ignored her, some even stepping farther away as if her presence alone was a threat. The loneliness, the humiliation, the exhaustion, it pressed down on her heavier than the snow around her. And then came the little girl. Her eyes sparkled with something Elena had long forgotten, pure innocence, unfiltered compassion. The child looked at her not with fear or judgment, but with the gentle concern of someone who simply saw another human hurting. Elena tried to turn her face away, ashamed of her tears, but the girl stepped closer, her tiny boots leaving prints in the fresh snow. The girl's small arms stayed open, waiting, patient, sincere. Something fragile inside Elena broke, not in a painful way, but in the way ice breaks when sunlight touches it for the first time all winter. As the little girl wrapped her warm, tiny arms around her, something completely unexpected washed over Elena. A warmth, a belonging, a reminder that she wasn't invisible, she wasn't worthless. Someone saw her, someone cared. She closed her eyes as more tears flowed, and for the first time in days they weren't tears of hopelessness, they were tears of being human again. The girl's father hurried forward, clearly startled, but the moment he saw Elena's shaking body and the child's tender embrace, his expression softened. He realized what his daughter had sensed long before he did. He knelt down beside them, removing his jacket without hesitation and gently placing it around Elena's shoulders. She looked up at him, her lips trembling, but she couldn't find the strength to speak. She didn't need to. The man simply nodded, his eyes carrying a wordless assurance. They stayed like that in the softly falling snow, three strangers bound by one single act of kindness. As the minutes passed, the father invited Elena to stand, supporting her when her legs nearly gave out. He didn't treat her like someone broken, he treated her like someone deserving of care. He guided her gently, step by step, the little girl holding Elena's hand as if afraid to let go. They walked together to the man's car nearby, its interior warm and glowing with soft yellow light. For the first time in a long time, Elena felt the heat of a heater, the comfort of gentle air, the sense that she might survive this nightmare. They took her to a warm cafe still open late. The smell of fresh pastries and hot soups made Elena dizzy, reminding her how long it had been since she had eaten a real meal. She hesitated, embarrassed, but the man insisted she sit. The girl took the seat beside her, leaning her head on Elena's arm as if they had known each other forever. With every bite of soup, strength slowly returned to Elena's body. With every moment of their company, something even more important returned: her hope. As she warmed her hands on a cup of tea, she listened as the man spoke gently, explaining how his daughter had run toward her without a second thought. "She has a big heart," he said quietly, his voice full of pride. Elena looked at the child, who smiled at her with such genuine happiness that Elena felt tears forming again. That night didn't magically fix all her problems. She wasn't suddenly wealthy or secure. Life didn't transform in an instant, but what changed was her spirit. She no longer felt like she was drowning alone in darkness. She had met people who saw her pain and stepped in instead of walking away. And sometimes, that single moment of compassion is the thread that pulls someone out of the deepest void. The man helped Elena find a temporary shelter for the night and promised to check on her in the morning. True to his word, he returned, bringing necessities, warm clothes, and information about job opportunities in his company's nearby office. Elena was overwhelmed. This wasn't pity. It was genuine belief that she deserved a chance. Days passed, and each day brought new strength. She attended interviews, prepared with guidance and support she had never expected from strangers. Slowly, but with determination, she began rebuilding her life, one small victory at a time. She found work as a receptionist and moved into a small but safe room. The little girl and her father visited often, becoming the closest thing to family she had. And every time they appeared, the child would run into her arms with that same warmth that first saved her. Months went by and Elena transformed. Her cheeks regained color, her eyes regained life, her dreams regained direction. Yet she never stopped remembering the night she had almost given up and the tiny arms that held her together. Sometimes the smallest acts have the biggest impact. Sometimes love shows up in the most unexpected forms. Sometimes a hug can become the turning point in someone's story. And in Elena's case, it saved her. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Act of Kindness. Your support helps these messages reach more people who need them. Before you go, comment below. Kindness can change a life. Because one small act can be the beginning of someone's miracle. If you want, I can also create cinematic prompts, titles, or a shorter 1-minute version.